In order to do a wobble test, you're going to have to remove the valve springs and the keepers. And at that time you will have exposed the end of the exhaust valve. Next we're going to put a split gauge onto the end of the exhaust valve. The exhaust valve itself doesn't really extend up high enough to reach the lip of the rocker box, and therefore it's hard to make a measurement, as well as the fact that the anatomy of the valve end itself is not very conducive to making a measurement. So we're going to put about a 2-inch extension onto the end of the exhaust valve and tighten it up pretty firmly. This is one place where you do not have to worry about over tightening, because you really would like this split gauge to be very firmly attached to the underlying valve, and you don't want it to be introducing any wobble of its own. Now, next we're going to take the fixture itself and put it onto the rocker box using the existing screw holes for the rocker box cover. You don't want to tighten these screws down completely tight, because you want this fixture to be able to move slightly to the right and left. I've made a dowel that will fit into the hole in this fixture pretty snugly, and it also has a cove cut into the end, and the radius of this cove is the same radius as the split gauge. So if we put the centering device into the fixture and press on it firmly, it forces this fixture to line up with the exhaust valve. Now you can take your Allen head wrench and tighten the fixture down firmly. I'm going to remove the centering device and put in the dial indicator gauge, and I've also made this a fairly snug fit for the dial indicator gauge, and I'm only going to use just finger tight tension on the shank of this. I don't want to be using an Allen head wrench and tightening that down. So we've established that the dial indicator gauge indicator tip is making perpendicular contact with the split gauge. We're going to take a screwdriver and we're going to go in below the split gauge. We do not want to make contact with the split gauge. We'll want to use the fixture to use this as a fulcrum and press on the valve stem itself. While we're doing that, we're going to zero out the dial indicator gauge. Then we're going to come around and use one of the bosses as a fulcrum, and we're going to press as much as we can on the other side of the exhaust valve. Here again, not making any contact with the split gauge itself. I'm getting a reading of about 22.5, which is a pretty decent reading. Now, that's pretty much how you do a wobble test.